I want you to think back. When was the last time that you've seen somebody buy a DVD? Or for that matter, read a book instead of going online? What about the last time that you've seen somebody buying a CD? If you're like most members of Gen Z, things like CDs might feel very pointless, very outdated and unnecessary. After all, why on earth would anybody get a CD, a physical CD, and a CD player when you can simply log on to Spotify and hear every single song that was ever made for just $10 a month? Why on earth would anybody go out and buy a heavy physical book and carry it around to read when you can simply listen to an audiobook on Audible instead? Whether it's video game discs, DVDs, books, magazines, music CDs, newspapers, etc., one fact remains: physical media is dying and it is being overtaken by the digital age. This may initially seem like a net benefit, and I understand that, because after all, who doesn't want more convenience in their life? Who would want to get up and change discs in the DVD player to watch a different movie when you don't even have to anymore? Why would anybody make things more difficult than they need to be? What if I were to tell you that this all-digital future is not the improvement that a lot of consumers may think it is? What if I were to tell you that physical media gave us something very important that digital media has not yet replicated, and that is the complete ownership and control over the property that we purchase? Before I get into that, let's first take a look at the current state and just the decline of physical media in general. Over the last decade, physical media sales have sharply declined across multiple formats as digital options have taken over. Sales of things like DVDs, CDs, and Blu-rays have all dropped very dramatically. According to data from the Digital Entertainment Group, sales of physical video formats in the US have decreased by over 80% from 2011 to 2021. This has of course been replaced by the rapid growth of streaming services like Netflix, like Hulu, like Paramount, like Disney Plus, which make up probably the majority of home entertainment spending today. In 2021, physical media made up only 8% of home entertainment revenue in the US. This obviously shows just how rapidly digital has become the default. This gradual shift from physical to digital has been going on for quite a few years. Initially, it was streaming services that made this online format of viewing very mainstream. After that, platforms like Steam began pushing digital game purchases, and now stores like Target are decreasing their DVD catalog, and Best Buy have announced that they'll stop selling DVDs altogether. Physical video game sales have also declined, with some major games now skipping physical releases entirely. For example, some editions of Resident Evil were only available digitally, marking a shift in even traditional gaming markets. This is a trend that extends far beyond just the content alone. Even the hardware industry has evolved to support this new digital shift. In fact, most new laptops are now released without even including a disk drive. Similarly, gaming companies are just embracing this all-digital future, with Sony releasing the PlayStation 5, the digital edition, which is just a console without a disk drive. Microsoft followed suit with the Xbox Series S, which also supports only digital games. So you might ask, what even is the benefit of physical media? Well, when you buy a physical piece of media, you become the very sole owner of it, and that is the difference between physical and digital media. In order to take away the product after purchasing it, if you were to buy physical media, someone would have to physically break into your home and take it. Not only could they not take it away remotely, but they also can't remotely alter the product, which is also very good for media preservation. A good example of this media preservation would be the Disney classic Lilo and Stitch. For those who grew up with the DVD version, you might remember there's a scene where Lilo hides in a dryer. However, on the streaming service Disney Plus, this scene was edited and the dryer was replaced with a cupboard. This was meant to reflect modern safety standards, and while the change may seem small, it's a very, very good example of how streaming platforms can alter the content after it's been made without anybody even noticing. For viewers of the original DVD, however, the original scene is still intact. Another example of how physical media helps with media preservation is South Park. Now, I am a huge fan of South Park. Anybody that knows me knows it, and I have all of its episodes on DVD. Some of these episodes I also have on the Apple TV as well. There's a certain episode of South Park that is banned and has been essentially wiped from all streaming services and internet platforms due to the Prophet Muhammad's face being shown on screen. This was seen as very offensive, and it was denounced by every streaming platform, essentially leaving the episode unavailable for viewers. However, the only reason why I'm available to access this episode is because I have the physical DVD of the original episode. This cannot be altered or taken away from me, and it is something that people that would view something only through digital means would not be able to have. If I make a purchase of an entirely physical product, then I'm able to do with that product what I wish. I can alter it in any way I see fit, and it is truly mine. I am the owner of the product, not just the user. I am the landlord, not just the renter. It is my product in every sense of the word. In this digital economy, buying something online is not the same thing as owning it. Physical purchases give us complete ownership, while digital purchases give us access. Access that can be taken away at any time. If you buy something digitally, it's either a recurring subscription payment, or even if it's a one-time purchase, more often than not, you're not actually purchasing the product. You're purchasing a license to access the product, rather than to own the product itself. In this day and age, almost everything purchased digitally is either a subscription or a temporary license now, rather than a full purchase. As a YouTube channel Raised puts it,
in this new economy, you'll never own a product, but always be a user.
The Kingard summed it up perfectly in his video, The Dark Side of Digital Media.
Take a look at the Steam Terms of Service and we're going to see something interesting. The game is being licensed to you and you hereby acknowledge that no title or ownership in the game is being transferred or assigned, and these terms should not be construed as a sale of any rights in the game. Microsoft, when you purchase software, you are actually purchasing a license to use the software rather than purchasing the software itself. Sony, when you order content from PlayStation Store, you buy a personal license to use that content for private, non-commercial use. This means you can use a product in the ways described in the license, but you do not own the product. Nintendo? Nintendo grants you a limited, non-sub-licensable license. Nintendo may revoke this license at any time. And this isn't limited to platforms and consoles. Fortnite, Activision Blizzard games, Ubisoft games, even single-player games often include wording that summed up say, you don't own this, we do, and we can take it from you at any time.
Not to mention the popular gaming company Ubisoft's director of subscription saying that he wants gamers to get, quote, comfortable with not owning their games. So you might be wondering, well, does it really matter? Does it really matter if we don't own the media that we consume? So what? Who cares if we don't technically own the media that we consume? As long as we have access to it and we're still able to consume it, who cares? My answer to that is the true problem with this lies in the control we're giving up. It's all about control. Whenever things are digital, companies retain control over the products that we purchase. They can take away, alter, or even restrict the things that we have already paid for. They're also able to alter the terms of sale after the purchase has already been made, or remotely increase the price of a recurring payment, or make a previous one-time purchase into a subscription payment. There are many examples of this happening, like Amazon Prime books being revoked remotely, or Spotify's device, the car thing, that was remotely shut down even after users had paid for it. All of these examples illustrate the lack of ownership that we have. Access to these products can disappear overnight despite the fact that we paid our own money for it. The things that we thought we previously owned, we realized we just rented them. We're not owning anything. Planned obsolescence also plays a very big role here. Companies often design their digital products to have a very limited lifespan, which forces us to buy newer and newer versions of these products or keep on paying recurring fees just to keep using them. For example, software updates can make a once-purchased app unusable on newer devices. This incentivizes users to just keep on paying and paying for a newer and newer one. Whether it's Apple pushing for planned obsolescence or Microsoft making users pay for Office updates, companies can dictate how, when, and even what we can access. And if they decide to make a change, there's often nothing we can do about it. I mean, I guess bring out the tissues, cry about it, tough luck. And the consumer is left being screwed, essentially. This lack of ownership gives companies way more power over people than really I believe they should have, which allows them to exercise this power in very unfair or almost predatory ways. Things such as sudden price hikes or forcing reoccurring subscriptions on features that should have never been a subscription to begin with. For example, BMW, which faced major backlash for implementing a subscription service for heated seats in certain regions. Rather than paying for the feature outright, customers were asked to pay a monthly fee just to access the heated seats in their car. The function that is already built in the vehicle, mind you, but BMW effectively put it behind a paywall. Imagine buying a car only to realize that features that you've already paid for are locked unless you keep on paying. You also lose the right to do what you want with your property. You lose the right to repair your property in the way that you want or alter the coding and the mechanics of it in the way that you want. If you lease a car rather than own it, you lose the right to repair or code the car in the way that you wish. A lack of physical media also means that you're not really able to resell a used product in the same way that you would be able to do for like a physical book or something, which is obviously in these corporations' best interest, as media companies often hate the idea of people really reselling media, because obviously that means they won't be making any money from that sale. In conclusion, digital purchases give up one thing, one very important thing, which is control. This is control that you can really have with a physical purchase. Physical media offers very true ownership. If you buy a DVD, nobody can take it from you. It's yours to watch anytime. You can share it with others. You can keep it indefinitely. You can reuse it, resell it. But as physical media declines, we're really losing this security. Recent shutdowns of physical media sales at places like Best Buy are just like really serves to highlight the narrowing choices that many consumers face. With digital copies, companies have much more control, and it makes it very easy to use that control in very abusive ways, really, to the consumer. It's very abusive, the situation we have right now. Relying entirely on these digital purchases, digital subscriptions, etc., means that we're really at the mercy of these corporations and their price changes. And obviously, a corporation wants one thing: to make money. They really don't care about consumers. I don't think that's a very controversial statement to say. So I think it's really time that we try hanging on to some physical media. I'm not saying just go out and ditch your Netflix subscription and just buy everything on like Blockbuster like it was 1980 or something. I'm not saying that. I understand that is not realistic. What I am saying is maybe just try and purchase physical media more often. I'm not saying that everything needs to be physical. I get it, it's not realistic, but especially if you have pieces of media that you really love, that are very near and dear to your heart, consider buying a physical version of that, just to make sure that you have complete control over it. I have physical versions of like albums. I have the Marshall Mathers LP on CD, just because of how much that album means to me. And if there's any piece of media that is important to you, I highly recommend having complete ownership over a copy of one of those products. In today's digital-first world, most things come in the form of digital leases or subscription services. Even when we think we're buying media, whether it's a book, a movie, or a game, we're really just leasing permission to view it. And as we've seen, these terms of use can be really changed at any time. Without ownership, we're really just left very vulnerable. So, physical media for the win all day and every day.